All right, welcome everybody. I'm super excited to have Mark Waggoner and Brittney Weber here today to share their presentation on developing lean line leaders. I am always excited about our participant sharing opportunities. Milgard has given back to the Northwest HPAC community in so many ways over the past couple of years. They even invited guests in to help them with a value stream map and a Kaizen event, or actually more of a Kaizen event a couple of years ago, which was a great experience for the community. They open their doors and they share a lot. When I heard that they were giving this presentation for the AME conference, I couldn't wait to hear it, and they allowed me to sneak in and see some of the dress rehearsals. And so I'm excited about the content you're about to see. Mark has been a part of HPAC on and off for 20 years, and this is our 20th year anniversary. So he's been with us since the beginning in some way, shape, or form, on and off over the past many years, and has a deep knowledge and experience in continuous improvement. I've had the opportunity to get to know Brittney over the past couple of years through Milgard, but also the Kata Girl Geeks. And so that has also been a joy. She is the CI coordinator at Milgard. A fun fact about Brittney is she likes to skydive and go on hot air balloon rides. A fun fact about Mark is that he's about to attend his second Taekwondo class that he's going with his 5-year-old grandson. So I am going to turn it over to the two of you. And I just ask that the rest of you that we stay on mute, and we'll come all back on screen when they're done for questions.
Awesome, thank you, Jennifer. Share my screen here. And hopefully I'm sharing the correct one. Everybody see the presentation up?
Looks great.
Perfect. All right, you ready to go, Mark?
Sure.
Perfect. We're gonna jump right in here. All right, so 60 years and counting, and we continue to innovate and manufacture high quality windows and patio doors, all of which are backed by industry leading warranties. Pre-pandemic, Milgard employed more than 3,000 team members. And although in most of our locations we were able to keep production running, our head count took a dramatic hit.
So one of the biggest problems we faced during the pandemic wasn't just losing our staff out in the plant and having to constantly be in retrain mode, which I think everybody on this call is familiar with. We were losing line leaders almost as fast, probably at a 50% rate or higher. This impacted our safety. We couldn't guarantee the safety of the new people coming in without proper leadership on the lines. Plus, we're trying to build windows 6 feet apart. Our quality started to take a decline. We were catching more defects coming off the line in-house. Our lead times were constantly moving out. It took us longer to build windows. It took us longer to get people trained. It took us longer to do rework. The development of our supervisors and leads had completely ground to a halt. We just couldn't keep enough people in the plant to pull others off and give them some more training. We realized real fast that we couldn't bleed leaders like this and continue to stay in business. We had to address this issue right away. So what Brittney and I are going to talk about is some of the things that we looked at on how to solve these problems.
So we operate with zero finished goods inventory. And we pride ourselves not only with making quality windows and doors, but also with delivering on time and in full. And like some of you, I would imagine, we use the metric of UPEH, units per employee hour. What we came to realize is that we were emphasizing on hours and focusing on outputs. We need more units, prep the trainers. Let's just get some more bodies in here. What we came to learn is that there was greater value in emphasizing efficiency and focusing on inputs. If that's waste, let's eliminate it. Waste elimination is a great way to show respect for our people, so we can make more with less. Our goals: to reduce overtime and increase the time our team members spend with their family, friends, and enjoying hobbies. Reducing rework and increasing job satisfaction. Reducing the amount of effort needed to complete tasks and stop sending our team members home exhausted. Reducing injuries. One step further, really, reducing the threat of injuries and maintaining a safe work environment people wanted to work in. The more we focus on efficiency and work with our team members to eliminate waste, the more knowledge our team members will gain about our vision of achieving operational excellence, which is when each and every employee can see the flow of value to the customer and fix that flow when it breaks down. But first, we needed to understand our current condition. So we asked ourselves, can everyone see and fix problems on their own? Have they been properly trained? Are they given time and resources? Really what it boils down to is whether or not our current leadership style supports and engages our team members.
So we got our steering committee together and we started looking at our leadership. What is our leadership style? We knew that we had more of a directive, autocratic feel about our leadership. And we knew if we wanted to get to operational excellence, we needed to adopt more of a transformational or collaborative leadership style. And we, like Brittney mentioned, we've been doing this for 60 years. So changing the leadership style was a huge undertaking for us. And we didn't want to go 100 degrees the other way. We understand that there are times where a directed leadership style is what's called for in any business. I think back to my time at ESCO. We got some ESCO people on the call, and my time in the military. And there are times where directive is the way to go. If I personally only have, I don't like being directed, but if I know I only have one chance to get this right, or I could get hurt, seriously injured, or cause harm to other people that I care about, I'm okay with you telling me exactly what to do, because I don't want to get hurt and I don't want to hurt other people. And another time I'm okay with directed leadership is when I have to buy a present for my wife, because I just want to be told what to do. Those are kind of connected, actually, now that I think about it. While we were preparing this presentation, I had to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. I don't know if any of you like going to the DMV. I mean, everybody's got their own thing. Maybe you're catching up on your reading or something. You just love the DMV. I despise going to the DMV, and I was trying to understand why. As a CIA leader, I want to know why on everything. And I realized my experience at the Department of Motor Vehicles is 100% directive. I come in, I'm not a person, I'm a number. Right off the bat, they let you know where you stand. It's all about their process, and you wait on them. You got to go to a table and fill out the form. Got to help you if you fill out the wrong form, because it's back at the end of the line, completely punitive. If you didn't bring the proper paperwork from home, back at the end of the line, completely punitive. And I despise being directed at that level. So I started trying to figure, how are we like the DMV? So Brittney and I are going to talk through a couple of scenarios. We took three facets of leadership. One is about selecting leaders to develop into higher levels. One is about the coaching style for leadership, and another one is about the leadership's attitude towards continuous improvement. And we're going to talk about what a directed leader looks like versus a collaborative leader, so we can get some common ground around that. So talking about leadership style, as a directed leader, I'm looking for people that are like me. I'm looking for people that have a background similar to mine. I'm looking for people that I have things in common with. I'm looking for the best operator that I can promote. And then I'm going to mentor that person so I can basically, in essence, clone myself.
As for a collaborative leadership style, we would look for natural leaders, ones who see possibilities for improvements in themselves and in others. Someone who thrives at learning the Gemba through scientific thinking. And we would identify these leaders first and teach them the technical skills of the job second.
So another one of the facets was, what is my coaching and development plan for leaders? And honestly, as a directed leader, I'm looking for somebody I don't have to coach or develop. I'm looking for that person that already achieves the KPIs without any influence from me. They already know what to do. They're always focused on the outputs. I'm always looking good with them supporting me.
Whereas with a collaborative leadership style, we would be process-oriented, learning to see strengths and weaknesses in others and creating situations for growth. We believe that if we develop anyone in the right way, the results would follow.
And the last facet that we wanted to dig deeper into personally as our style was, what's our attitude towards improvement? As a directive leader, I make most of the decisions. I'm the coach, they're the quarterback. I send in plays, they execute. I'm looking for followers that can execute to my strategies. I'm the one who makes most of the decisions because I have the most experience. And I always have the most experience because I'm the only one that's ever allowed to make decisions.
As for the collaborative leadership style, we would coach others in the Gemba to assume responsibility for closing and coach the scientific method of PDCA, helping us to focus on inputs, not just outputs. And with more leadership engaged, we can improve faster and take on more.
So we pulled all of our steering committee together and the supervisors, and we kind of went through several scenarios to determine whether or not we were a directive leadership style or a collaborative. And this is one of the few things I can say at Milgard that every leader in this plant agreed on at the same time. We were 100% hands down directive. We didn't even court being collaborative. We were, especially during the pandemic, we were all about, let's get it done fast. We don't have time to mess around, and 100% directive. No matter how much leadership training we had pulled people off the floor into classrooms and taught about, this is how to be a good leader, this is how to coach, this is kata, this is how we show people that we value, and this is how we show people that we respect them. Our actions were without a doubt directive. Our actions were telling people, if you want to be that leads, your role as a lead is primarily to make more windows. Your job is to follow directions. You observe the process, but not to solve problems. You observe to report problems so that others can come and solve them for you. As a line lead, you're going to be held accountable to the key performance indicators, but you will have very little say-so in how and the leading indicators that get you those numbers. So it was no surprise at all when we looked at the situation, why our leads were saying, I don't want any part of it. They would either leave the company or decline the position that they were holding. So just to summarize what we were saying about ourselves, Brittney, I need the next slide. Thank you. If you want to be a leader at Milgard, you need to hit your targets every day, whatever it takes. If you have trouble or you're in doubt, you and your team just need to work harder. And if you want to advance in your leadership career, you need to hone your firefighting skills, and you need to learn to be more of a directive leader, just like my style.
So it's taken us years to understand what our actions were saying, and it's not what we wanted our leaders thinking about our values. So we turned to the teachings from some of our mentors. We looked at C²V from Scott Simmons, which states, people need to be challenged, creative, and valued to have a sense of purpose and fulfillment. So ask yourself, would you be where you are today had you not felt challenged? Had you not been given the freedom to use your creative talents and felt valued for doing so? Hey, come to think of it, isn't there something like that in the 8 Wastes of Lean? Yeah, that right there. Not utilizing talent. I do like the way Mark says it better. Not using people's genius and creativity. Now that's the waste we needed to focus on eliminating. Another lesson learned from our mentor, David Marquet, is that you must give intent rather than orders. This guides your people without doing the thinking for them. You must shift the psychological ownership to them. To do so successfully, first you have to be sure that they have the technical competence and organizational clarity to do so. David draws it out like this. Giving control must be supported by 2 pillars, competence and clarity. It can be very simple. Do they know that it's safe? And do they know that it's the right thing to do? Give intent, and people will give you results. We believe using this method will help us to develop a team of thinking, active, passionate, creative, proactive, taking initiative people.
So we knew that we had a problem and we knew where we wanted to go. But I mean, let's be fair, we're a successful business. We can't be that bad. You know, so like any problem solving style, we started taking stock of what are the things that we can use as a platform? What are the things that we know we're good at that we can use as a resource to move forward? One thing that we were particularly proud of, I mean, there was room for opportunity, but was we call it the Milgard operating system, which most people have some kind of process management system that's taken from Creating a Lean Culture by David Mann. And we're no different. And it centers around having a well-defined process that's supported by leader standard work, visual controls, and a daily accountability structure. Our daily accountability structure was something that was a common staple for every leader here. We met on the floor as a leadership team every day at the same time to review the metrics on the floor. So we wanted to launch off of that. So we started looking at how can we expand on that? So instead of just hitting 3 or 4 lines every day and then hit everything by the end of the week, we made the challenge that we wanted to hit every line every day within an hour, where the supervisor and lead reported out how they were doing against their key performance indicators. So we started out right off the bat and we completely failed. There was no way we were going to get through all 8 lines in 1 hour. It just wasn't going to happen. So we did an informal Kaizen. We broke down what are the steps that's going on and where are we spending all of our time. The biggest time drain we had was finding the leads. Now, this is a meeting that took place every day for years at 8:30 in the morning. Everybody knew that there was a meeting at 8:30, yet on almost every line, we had to go find the lead. Now, there's not that many people here that can't tell time. So we started digging deeper into that. We realized, well, we didn't realize, we were told by several very honest leads that they despise this part of their job. They hate coming to this meeting. And the reason they hate it is they have anywhere from 4 to 6 managers that all have their own personal agenda, firing questions at them with no chance to prep. And even if they had the answers, they weren't prepared to present data to support. So they couldn't argue when people disagreed with them. And so they just hated coming. So we made an agreement with them. We decided to adopt our script or our question or agendas around the 5 kata questions. And if you're not familiar with them, the questions we're asking is, do you understand your target? Do you understand where you currently are the outcomes, so you have a gap? Do you understand the opportunities that are presented to either learn more or to close the gap? And what are the actions you plan to take? And then when can we come and see what your learning has been? Because we wanted to focus on development, not just on closing gaps. So we gave them those 5 questions and told them, if you're prepared to answer these 5 questions, you will have no problem. Then we had to address the other part. What are the roles? We don't need 6 or 8 people standing there attacking the lead. So the tier 2 roles where the supervisor asks these 5 questions of the lead, and they either coach them to a solution or they help develop them as a leader. The rest of the managers, your only role is to stand there unless something gets escalated to you. Now, if you have ideas on how the supervisor can be a more effective coach after the lead returns back to work, you're welcome to have that one-on-one with the supervisor afterwards. So with that, we're off and running. Now, in our old style of leadership, we would just end right here. Okay, here's the information. It's been presented. You guys are all ready to go forth and develop. But we feel more role playing is important. You need to see how it looked. So Brittney and I we took a summary of different interactions we've actually had at these tier 2 boards, and we put them together in this presentation. So we're going to do a little role playing. I'm going to play the role of the supervisor, and Brittney will play the role of the lead. So be nice to Brittney because she's got the hard job. And we're going to go through just 3 of the 5 KPIs that we discuss every day at those boards. And so it's more effective. We created a problem at every one of the boards. So are you ready, Brittney?
I am ready.
Okay. So the first metric is safety. So Brittney, can you talk to me about what your team's target is for safety?
Yeah, our target is to have 100% of team member engagements turned in daily.
Okay, so where are we at currently?
We're just below the target. Yesterday and month to date, we're at 97%.
Okay, so we've got a gap there. We're red.
Correct.
Okay, so what are the obstacles that prevented your team from being green on safety?
Well, I want to show you a chart that shows my team. You can see here that my team is actually doing great. I just have one individual that's not really turning anything in. I mean, you can see the red boxes week after week. I'm not getting anything from her. At this point, I'm just going to give her a write-up because I don't want her attitude spreading to the rest of the team.
Okay, so if we determine that a write-up is necessary, you have my complete support. But I just have a few questions around the data I'm looking at. So it looks like Amanda is the one we're talking about possibly disciplining.
That's right.
Right. So in the interest of respect for people, I want to dig more into the data. How long has Amanda been on your team?
Amanda's been on my team for probably about 3 years.
So when I'm looking over here at the right, we're January through June, when you were at 100%, Amanda was actually part of that.
Yeah, actually she was. Amanda actually, now that I'm thinking about it, she used to be really good at the engagements. She helped get other people engaged, help them fill out their cards.
Okay. So when we go back to our performance problem solving training that we've had, would you say Amanda had an ability problem to meeting the target or a motivational problem in hitting the target?
I would say it must be motivational because I know that she's got the ability.
Okay, so do we know what's happened between June and July to change her motivation level?
No, I really don't.
Okay. So again, you have my support, Brittney, but are you ready to move forward disciplinary without knowing that?
No, I totally just kind of overlooked how good she used to be at it. And I just wouldn't feel right about that. I think I owe it to her to go ask her and see what happened.
Okay, so what's the action we're going to take?
I'm going to take time today to go talk to Amanda and see what happened, why she stopped turning in cards.
Okay, when can I come and see what you learned from that conversation?
Why don't you give me until this afternoon? Can we check back in at 4 at the end of the shift?
Yeah, I look forward to it. I'll be back at 4.
Perfect.
So before we move off of safety, I see there's a couple of open action items around safety. Is there anything at this time you need my help with, or you want to escalate?
No, we're just waiting on some parts. I have countermeasures in place and everything's being monitored. So I'm not ready to escalate anything yet.
Okay, so let's switch over to quality. What's your team's target for quality?
For quality, the target is to pass 98.5% of our end-of-line inspections.
Okay, so how's our team doing right now?
Yesterday was kind of a rough day. We were at 97%. But month to date, we're not that far below target, 98.35%.
Okay, so we're close and we had a bad day. So what are the obstacles that we're facing?
Well, I think we've had a lot of bad material lately. I know we've had some locks that weren't in spec, scratched glass, and I think a lot of that's dirty vinyl.
Okay, so I heard one of my triggers. You know my triggers, Brittney. When you say I think, I want to know. So do you have data to support this theory?
Yeah, we keep a chart. We can look at the defects chart.
Okay, so walk me through this chart.
So these are defects found throughout the month, and you can see that the scratched glass and dirty vinyl, those are all on there. But now that, honestly, okay, so I'm looking at the chart, and what I'm seeing is that the strike misalignment was actually my biggest defect. It's kind of towering over the others by about 30% or so.
Okay, so what action are you planning to take around that obstacle?
So I already took action. That was kind of a big mess up on the operator. So I already coached the operator about it though.
Okay, so recently we did some root cause work around problem solving, and I'm new to this line, so I think it'd be helpful for me if we did a little 5 why, so I understood the root cause around this, so I can tie your action to it. Are you okay with helping me with my development?
Sure.
You sound so excited, Brittney.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so why is the strike misaligned on these windows?
Because the lock doesn't align with the receiver.
Okay, so why is the lock not aligned with the receiver?
Because the hole for the lock wasn't center when they routed the material.
Okay, so I'm new to this line. So the lock for the latch and the lock for the receiver aren't lined up enough to latch.
Correct.
Okay, so why is it not centered?
Well, because the router was set up for a different profile.
Okay, so you know what's coming. Why was the router set up for another profile?
Because the operator didn't select the correct profile when they set up the machine. Remember, I told you it was an operator error.
Okay, so the machine didn't malfunction. We just set it up wrong.
Right.
Okay, so why would an operator deliberately set the machine up wrong?
Well, the standard work says that they should verify the profile selection, but they're a new employee and they're having a hard time deciphering the profiles.
Okay, so why is it so hard to know one profile from another type of window?
Well, it's not, I guess the profiles is not really part of the training for this machine, and we don't have any visual controls.
Okay, so it sounds to me like we're getting really close to something we can take action on.
Yeah, I heard it when I said it out loud too. I need to update the work instructions to include the profile descriptions. And I'd like to create visuals showing the profiles. And then of course, I'm gonna have to train the team.
Okay, those are solid. When can I come and see what you learned from taking these steps?
This is gonna be quite a bit. This is gonna take me like a week.
Okay, so if it takes a week, this is important. We have to give people the right tools. So I got one final question before we move on. Who's gonna run the router while you're working on this?
It's gonna have to be the same employee that's back there now.
So help me understand. We have somebody that's new and they've already failed once, so they don't feel very good about their job. And we're gonna put them back on the same job for the rest of the week with the same broken tool and just hope that we don't have a problem?
I get where you're going, Mark, but like I told you, I'm short-staffed. I don't have anybody else to put back there, and I can't be in two places at once. My hands are kind of tied here.
Okay, so respect for people is really important to me, and giving people the right tools is the best way to show respect. So if we need to have this fixed today, what would it take?
I would need to be able to give 100% of my attention to making these work instructions and creating the visual controls, which would mean I would be away from my line. I can't leave my line.
So we have backup leads on the line, correct?
Yeah, but because we're so short-staffed, my backup lead is actually running a position that they can't walk away from.
Okay, well, this is important to me, Brittney. So there's got to be other resources. What do you think we can do if we had to have it done today?
Well, there is George over on V4. He used to work on my line, and he's the backup lead over there now. He would be really great. If you could get him to come over, I'd feel pretty comfortable walking away.
Okay, well, George is at lunch right now. So in the next 20 minutes, since V4 is one of my lines and they're staffed pretty well, I can have George come over. He's been wanting more opportunity anyway. So if I have George over here saying the next 20 minutes, do you think you can have this done by the end of the day with the team trained?
With the team trained might be pushing it, but I can give it a really good go. I might be able to do it by the end of the day.
Okay, so when can I come back and see what we've learned?
Well, since we're already meeting this afternoon, how about 4 o'clock?
Okay, outstanding. So let's talk about your other metric, output. So what's our target for output?
Our target is 2,625 units.
Okay, and so how did we do against that target?
Yesterday we did great. We had an awesome day, 2,690.
That's huge. I mean, that's one of the best days I think we've seen in a long time. I hope you guys are celebrating.
Oh yeah, everybody went home feeling really good. It was a great day. Everything just worked out right.
Okay, so I'm looking at your month to date, which is red. So this is the first day you've had a really good day this month.
Yeah, we've been struggling all month.
Okay, so let's talk about month to date. What are the obstacles that prevented us from hitting the target so far month to date?
Well, like we already talked about, I've been so short-staffed. I've been moving people around into stations that they've never really worked before. Definitely a lot of situations where people just aren't very efficient. And they just can't really keep up with the pace that we normally run at. And then we also have, those few units that we lose, people coming back from lunch and breaks a little bit late.
Okay, well, I can see how all those things would challenge us. So can you walk me through that data on how you came up with these?
We can look at the hourly performance chart.
Okay, so what am I looking at?
Well, so looking at this chart, this is our hourly performance month to date. You can see that we have quite a bit of variation, but nothing really big outside of our control limits.
Okay, you got these two peaks here that say lunch. What's that mean?
Yeah, I offset lunch, so I keep a few employees running while the rest go to lunch. So we make up a few units there.
Okay, so I also see these big vampire fangs hanging down there. Can you explain those to me?
Yeah, that's our shift change. At the end of the shift, we're building up all of our wet line for our next shift and moving it off to the side. So that takes up a little bit of time where we don't actually produce.
Okay, so when you say when we're setting up our wet line, I don't understand what that means.
Well, the day shift and the swing shift actually run different products. So at the end of our shift, we build products for each station and then we pull those off to the side so that when we start our next shift, we start with a wet line.
Okay, so at the end of your shift, you take all the product at each station and set it to the side and put all the swing shifts from last night back on the line so they can start with a wet line.
Yeah, sometimes we move it up there for them or they move it up for themselves.
Okay, is that because swing shift doesn't know how to make the product you make on day shift?
No, they know how to make it. They just don't have as much practice. They're just not as efficient.
Okay, so is that because you guys don't know how to make what they make on nights?
Oh, it's the same. We know how, we just don't run it very often, so we're not as efficient as they are.
Okay, would you say you don't run it very often because we keep pulling it off the line and setting it to the side?
Well, yeah, it's just, that's the way we've always run, so we're just kind of used to doing it that way. We only
Okay,
really have to make the other product when we have to do a remake or something.
I'm sure this solves some problems throughout our history. I'm kind of new, but we went through the 8 waste training and it taught us to look at value added versus non-value added from the customer's perception. So if you were buying windows and you came in the plant and saw your windows leaned up against the wall over on the side of the line for 12 hours, what would you think?
Well, I think I'd definitely ask why mine were pushed off to the side and somebody else's were going right past them.
Okay, so we agree there's some non-value added here.
Sure.
What kind of waste do you think you see just in the process that we have right now?
Well, we move the units around quite a bit and there's always risk of defects, breaking the fins and scratching the glass, things like that. Once we get them moved, like you said, they just sit there until the next shift. So there's waiting. And we don't want all of those units to clutter the work area. So the rack that we store them in is actually on the opposite side of the department. So there's a lot of transportation. Honestly, Mark, there's a lot of waste in this process.
I think I could actually use this opportunity or this process to show all the waste in a training session. So what do we want to do about this?
Well, we could try and put together an experiment.
Okay, so what are you thinking?
Well, why don't we just leave the products that we finish the end of the shift with for the next shift, regardless of what style it is.
So nothing comes off the line, everybody just finishes what's at the workstation when they start?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's keeping us from doing that?
Well, I'm sure that once we start, it's going to uncover a bunch of obstacles, but just getting started I don't think the swing shift's going to want to do this.
Okay, so do you need help from me?
Well, I would like to actually, why don't you give me a chance? Let me talk to Amir. I would like to try and figure this out myself first, but I might need you to come in and support me if he tells me that he doesn't want to try any experiments.
Okay, so when can I come and see what happened between you and Amir?
We would normally always meet up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So since you and I we're already meeting at 4, by then I'll know. I'll be able to tell you how it went with Amir.
Okay, that's a plan. So before I walk away, so wrap it up. You're planning to have a conversation with Amanda today about safety. We're going to create some work instructions or update the work instructions and train the team, hopefully by 4 o'clock. And then you're planning to have a meeting with Amir all by 4 o'clock. And I'm going to get you George as soon as I walk away from this meeting so I can get you off the line so you can take care of these things.
Yeah, that list sounds heavier when you say it like that. So please make sure George can be out here as soon as he can.
That's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay. So hopefully you picked up on some of the lean techniques and leadership training you've had in the past just through these interactions. Everything was based around the 5 kata questions: understanding the target, understanding where you currently are to establish a gap, understanding what the obstacles or opportunities were, and then was there actions planned to either go learn more or to close the gap, and then what have we learned from this problem. We tried to play catch ball back and forth, Brittney and I. As a supervisor, I didn't tell her what to do. Now, I had some pretty leading, loaded questions for her. That's true, but the goal was to get her to an understanding so she and I were thinking alike, or was to educate me more about how the line runs, being new to the area. We focused on data analysis. I heard a lot of hypothesis, but without the analysis and conclusion part of the scientific method, I didn't feel we were ready to take actions just based on assumptions, even if they're well-founded around experience. We played a little bit with the root cause analysis and the 5 why. We introduced a little bit of performance problem solving, where we looked at the person and what are the obstacles, what's going on in a person's personal life or an issue at work that could cause their behavior to change rather than just terminating, especially when we have a hard time staffing people. Understanding data. There were situations where my outside eyes, being new to this line, looked at the data that Brittney looked at every day and drew different conclusions. So either I was educated on how things ran, or she was educated on how to look at data in a different way. We did some waste identification, and a couple of things at Milgard that we're really passionate about is we don't ask people to collect data unless we're going to take action on it. Unless we're going to use that data for something. And we're not going to make decisions that impact how people do things unless we have a good reason, because change is hard for everyone. And coaching through questions. Everything that came out of my mouth was a question. So you're looking at the Shingo model. There's a few things I really wanted to point out that we tried to build into this, and it didn't happen as smooth as it did between Brittney and I. It took us several cycles to get to where people were engaging at the level we wanted. But respect for the individual had to be first and foremost. It's not respectful to have people use broken tools or broken processes. We wanted to lead with humility. As a supervisor, I want to go into this interaction with the expectation that I'm going to learn something as well. We wanted to drive quality at the source. Where was it occurring, and what can we do about it at the point of occurrence? And embrace scientific thinking in everything we did. Now, all of you know the Shingo model. I'm not going to run through all of them, but we try to use that as our guiding principles, and understanding that best is always the enemy of better. We wanted to get better every day. Having a perfect interaction just wasn't going to happen.
So Mark and I would like to share a testimony from one of our leads, one that was particularly hard to find back in the day. Give me just 1 second. I can play this.
My name is Luis Herrerias, and I've been with Milgard for 5.5 years, a lead for 4. I'm the lead for the B4 department. here to give my opinion on the daily huddle. It used to be really overwhelming, a lot of information. When it got changed, it got more simplified, more to the point, no finger pointing at some point. It's only 2 or 3 people in it. It used to be about 7 people just trying to get answers around the subject. And right now we just go straight to the point. And I get more help that way because the person that's there, it's more involved. It's less overwhelming on myself. And I think it's a really great improvement.
So you can't help but smile when you hear that. We really have come a long way. So when we stopped directing our leaders and focused on developing them, we saw great improvements. Our highest impact was with our leadership turnover. Our lead turnover improved by 50%, and our supervisor turnover improved by 40%. We also observed many other notable improvements, including in our sales, output, and quality.
So in the spirit of continuous improvement, this was a big focus in 2021. So this year, our focus has been moving. We had so much success by engaging the leads and tapping into their genius. We wanted to move to the next level and start focusing more on engaging the operators. Now that we've got more of a stable operator base, we're actually going out and trying to understand, like in a true Gemba walk, what do the operators see and what are some of their challenges? So after we hit the metrics, the supervisor will walk us down the line and show us what the operators have suggested and what are some of the problems they're facing that they want to escalate. And also we break off at the end because we have been directive leaders for so long, and we do kind of an after action review where the leadership, the managers and supervisors will give testimony on what today looked like. How did we engage? How did we, and sometimes we catch ourselves, you know what? I went completely back to my old directive behavior, and the rest of the team will hold them accountable and say, I don't think you're engaging your team. I think you're back to telling them what to do. So then other people will share a great example of how they had a great engagement. In the beginning, the engagements were very few and the direction was very high, but I'm seeing that needle move, and that's really what we're trying to accomplish here. So, I mean, Brittney and I covered a lot of information. There's another slide. And I hope some of the things that you got out of this was we actually start seeing our culture change. We can teach lean tools all day long, but when your culture starts to embrace lean thinking and developing people and respect for people, that's the biggest change. Our engagement has gone up. We've started to form partnerships, which I think is the biggest thing on our metrics improving. We started developing that problem solving muscle and more than just the senior leaders. And we took the mantra of, we won't steal your learning. We will slow down if we have to, but it's all about developing people and learning and developing great coaches. So not only has the line leadership been developing, we've been developing that coaching muscle with the managers and senior managers. And my biggest part is learning out of the classroom. I can hire people to come in and teach Lean 101, Advanced Lean, Six Sigma. I mean, the MAG, you name it. I mean, there's hundreds of lean tools, but until you go and start exercising those in the Gemba, you're not learning. Okay, and so that's what we had. So we're open for questions and feedback now. Okay, I'm going to lunch.
I'm going to stop the recording here in a second. So I just wanted to say thank you very much before we do go into our questions. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. And thanks for, I'm impressed with so much interest. It makes me feel like we did something good.